As I've said before many times, I've always really enjoyed playing the Need for Speed games. I don't know, maybe I'm in a racing kind of mood, but I really want to go back and play Need for Speed Most Wanted again. I remember buying this game at, I think, Walmart, and couldn't stop playing it. At a recent trip to my parents' house, I found all the CDs I left behind and was thrilled to see that Windows 10 didn't give me any issues installing the game. At least, until I got this message on the final disc. Oh, damn it. So I had to go through a few somewhat shady methods to get myself a working copy. And then here we are. Need for Speed Most Wanted is a bit different than the previous games in that although there's a racing to be had, there's much more emphasis on the police chases than your normal competition. In fact, there's a plot in the game where you are actively encouraged to increase the hatred level the police have for you. But let me start at the beginning. You play as yourself, a guy who's trying to get his name into the popular street racing circuit. You're given a few introductory races to get used to your vehicle, and then you challenge a guy named Razor. Of course, things don't go as planned. Your new friend Mia gives you a call halfway through the race, letting you know that there was a pool of liquid where your car originally started. And soon after this, you hear a nice, not-so-good sound, and your car is toast. So you lose the race, and the pig slipped to your vehicle to Razor. It's common knowledge that he cheated, and now it's up to you to grab a new car once you get out of jail, and work your way up the ranks to challenge him in a rematch. In order to do this, you're introduced to the Blacklist. This is a checklist of 15 racers that you must challenge one-on-one after certain requirements are met, and only once you defeat the one in fair racing can you take on the next. The higher in rank you get, the more difficult the requirements are. Of course, number one on the Blacklist is Razor, so he's the one you're ultimately gunning for. All of this is told to you in some truly odd cutscenes. They feature live actors against still pictures, which look, I don't know if it's good, but I guess they do the job. The acting is over the top, and honestly I've always wanted to beat Razor just because he's a smug bastard. Most of the other Blacklist members are tools as well, and it's always satisfying to win against them and move on up. So from the start you get to purchase one of 4 low-level cars. Every time I started playing the game, I chose a Chevy Cobalt. I kicked total ass with this, which is unusual because I never thought a frickin' Cobalt could win street races. But then again, I know jack about cars. It's a miracle I know how to check my oil. But anyway, that's what I've used up until I could steal a few of my rivals' vehicles and get the Lancer that I typically use in Need for Speed games. Anyway, there are several different race types you can partake in, and each one can be accessed by either going through a menu, or even more fun, driving to the start point in the open world. That's right, Rockport allows you to freely drive where you want. This is because there's a few other things that you can do in the world other than race. But first, the race events. There's your standard circuits and point-to-point races. There's also my least favorite races, drag races, where you go as fast as possible and time your shifting to gain the upper hand. Thankfully, there's not a lot of these, but I never really cared for them. There's a few other types too. Lap knockout is the same as circuit racing, but after every lap, the person in last place is eliminated. Toll booth races are basically a sprint where each toll booth is a checkpoint, and you have limited time to reach it, and by reaching one, more time is added. Kinda feels like the old arcade-style racing games like Cruisin' USA and stuff like that. I've always enjoyed this mode, primarily because I also found it to be fairly easy to win at, since there's no opponents other than the clock and possibly the police. There's also something called Speed Trap, which has a similar checkpoint system, but the goal isn't necessarily to finish in first, but instead to hit the checkpoint going as fast as you possibly can. Your speed basically becomes your score, and when the first racer crosses the finish line, everyone else's speed totals will decrease somewhat rapidly. Highest speed total wins. It's a fun race type, but I can't help but feel like you're always stacked up against faster cars, so you really need to rely on your constantly regenerating nitro, and make sure that you use it effectively. When it's time to race the Blacklist member that you're going up against, they're going to text you on a singular device. Yeah, that's a throwback. Each of these challenge races are only against that Blacklist member. So, essentially, every one of these races are one-on-one, and each Blacklist member has its own set of races to challenge you against. Again, once you reach these and complete both of them in first, which is the only way to succeed in any of the races in the game, you'll move on to the next Blacklist member. In between races and chases, you can opt to mod your vehicle or purchase new ones by driving in garages and auto shops. There's also various safe houses that you can stop at to change your vehicle, use your rap sheet, or quit the game. There's a bit over 30 vehicles available in the shop, and many parts available in the body shops. After completing Blacklist races, you'll unlock more visual elements and higher upgrades to your performance. These all cost money, and you'll probably run low at one point, so you can feel free to sell any vehicles that you might not need anymore. After every win and rank up on the Blacklist, you'll want to head here to see how you can upgrade your vehicle. The other thing you'll be able to do driving around is the other main part of the game, police chases. See, every Blacklist member requires you to complete a certain amount of races, enough bounty milestones, which are primarily involved in chases, and finally, raise your bounty level to a specific amount. This essentially amounts to needing to piss off the local law enforcement. You can cause general mayhem to get an officer to your location, or you can immediately jump into a chase within the Blacklist menu. At all times, a radar detector will be shown at the top of the screen, flashing yellow when a speed trap is near, or green when there's an officer in your vicinity. Once your chase begins, you need to get enough distance to max out the evasion meter on the bottom of the screen, and then finally hide for a long enough period of time for the police to call off the chase. There are multiple heat levels, signified by the flame on the left side of the screen. Obviously, the higher this goes, the more attention you'll get, bringing in roadblocks, spike strips, and helicopters. These chases are a blast, because the more chaos you cause, the more notoriety you get, which means the closer you'll get to the next Blacklist member. But what are you aiming for in those chases? Well, that depends on the Blacklist member that you're trying to knock down a few pegs. Bounty is obtained by destroying objects and cruisers, driving erratically, and dragging the chase on. But other milestones mean tagging, or simply striking police vehicles, getting enough criminal infractions, evading or dragging a chase on for a specific number of time, going through a roadblock, and so on. All of your milestones will be shown on the screen during chases, so you'll know exactly what you need to do and how far away from those goals you are. If you get busted, all hope is not lost. You'll have to pay your fines, which might be hefty if you are a little hellion. You also get a strike on your car. 3 strikes and the vehicle is impounded for good, which kinda sucks if you don't have the cash to buy a new one. Now, here's the thing if you're in a pinch. You can lower your wanted level. By completing races in other vehicles, any cars that might be in your garage/safe house will start to get a decreasing heat level. So what I started doing was using one vehicle for races and another reliable car for chases. This allowed me to quickly get into higher paced chases to increase the bounty a bit faster. It worked for me, but maybe you'd want to use the same car each time. Although you will need to upgrade at some point, so don't get too attached. But to help alleviate the costs of a new car, there are a few bonuses that you might get from defeating your rivals. Once a Blacklist member loses against you, you have to choose 2 of 6 possible markers. Why they're called markers, I really don't know. But anyway, 3 of the markers are always the same: a unique visual, performance, or body part. But the other 3 choices can be a bunch of different things. You can earn get out of jail free cards, extra impound strikes to prevent your car from getting destroyed, cold hard cash, and the best outcome, the pink slip to the vehicle you just raced against. These vehicles you take can be upgraded more as well, so don't think that just because you got something with a better paint job than your own, that you can't make it better. But if you do miss this and don't get the pink slip in your attempts, you can't go back and get it. Unless you reload, of course. The graphics of the game are simply phenomenal, even today. The world is entirely believable, and the cars all have a realistic level of detail to them. It doesn't look like it aged a day, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Even coming back to the game now, it doesn't feel like it's a game from around 2005. My friend had the PS2 version, and it wasn't nearly as polished visually as the PC version. So, if you're going to buy this, I definitely say go PC. The soundtrack is just as awesome as the graphics. Although there's your fair share of rap music for the menus, the racing action is primarily techno and hard rock/metal, consisting of bands like Styles Up Beyond, Cell Dweller, Disturbed, A7X, and Mastodon. Friggin' sweet. I have yet to get sick of the soundtrack. The only thing is that the music will automatically change to a more epic soundtrack when involved in a chase, so there's no option to change it. To help this though, the police will actively give out codes, so you can decipher these. You can figure out what they're saying. Pretty neat, even if it sounds a bit like simple ambience. I think that's all she wrote for Need for Speed Most Wanted. Personally, this is my favorite Need for Speed game. I love it. I've been wanting to come back to this for a long time, and decided that I just needed to install and play it. I haven't looked back. The game is fantastic, and I can only say that I highly recommend it. Find a copy if possible, and enjoy the adrenaline-inducing races and the stressful chases. It's a lengthy game as well, so you probably won't complete it in a weekend. But again, I highly recommend it. Final score? 10 out of 10. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.